Silent for 20,000 years. Then humanity's ghost ship crossed the galaxy. Again, 50 years had passed since humanity returned to Sol. Timon was old now, his body kept alive by medical technology that humans and Luminari had developed together. He walked slowly through the streets of New Sol, marveling at how much had changed. The city was alive. Real trees grew in parks, their leaves rustling in wind that carried the smell of ocean salt. Children played in streets, human and alien kids running together, laughing in a dozen different languages. Above them, Earth's sky was blue again, dotted with white clouds. Taemin stopped at a memorial in the city center. It was a simple stone wall with 10 billion names carved into it. Every human who died in the attack was remembered here. People came every day to touch the names, to remember. Hyunwoo found him there. He was middle-aged now, with gray in his hair and lines around his eyes. He carried his youngest daughter, a girl named Soo-jin, after the commander who brought them home. She asked about Earth today, Hyunwoo said, setting the child down. Asked if it was always this beautiful. What did you tell her? Taemin asked. The truth, that it was even more beautiful once. That bad people destroyed it, but good people brought it back. Little Soo-jin ran off to play with her friends, a mix of human and alien children who had never known war. Taemin watched them and felt hope. These children would grow up in a different world than their grandparents knew. Earth was healing, but it would never be the same. The restoration project had succeeded beyond anyone's dreams. Oceans covered the planet again, though smaller than before. Forests grew in carefully planned biodomes that were slowly expanding. Animals from the genetic banks were being reintroduced, one species at a time. But there were still scars. Dead zones where nothing would grow. Craters that would never fully heal. Ruins of ancient cities buried under new construction. Earth remembered what happened to it. Humanity remembered too. Taemin received a call from Jiwoo, who was now the oldest living xenoarchaeologist in the galaxy. His organic body had died decades ago, but his mind lived on in a crystalline matrix, preserved by Luminari technology. Come to the university, Jiwoo said. I want to show you something. At the university, Jiwoo taught the most popular class in the galaxy, the history of humanity. Students from hundreds of species attended, either in person or via hologram. They wanted to understand the species that had come back from extinction. Today's lecture was special. Jiwoo had invited survivors from the original fleet, now elderly, to tell their stories. A woman named Haiwan spoke about the day Earth died. She was a child then, 6 years old, playing in a park in Seoul when the sky caught fire. Her mother grabbed her and ran. They made it to one of the evacuation ships with minutes to spare. I still have nightmares, Haiwan said, her voice steady despite her tears. I see my home burning. I see people who didn't make it. But I also see something else. I see humans refusing to give up. I see us choosing to live instead of die. That's what I want you to remember. Not our tragedy, but our survival. A young student raised his hand. His name was Bora, and he was human, born on Earth after the restoration. Could it happen again, he asked. Could humanity survive another extinction event? Jiwoo smiled, his crystalline form glowing. Come with me. All of you. He led the entire class to a sealed facility outside the city. Security was tight, but Jiwoo had clearance. Inside were ships, dozens of them, sleek and modern vessels that incorporated both human determination and alien innovation. These are humanity's insurance policy, Jiwoo explained. Colony ships always maintained, always ready. If Earth dies tomorrow, humanity can evacuate in hours. They learned their lesson. They will never be caught unprepared again. Bora touched one of the ships with reverence. Where would we go? Anywhere, Hyunwoo said, joining the tour. Everywhere. Humanity survived once by running and hiding. But they also survived by adapting and growing. If they had to run again, they would survive. They always do. On New Earth, similar preparations existed. That colony had grown into a thriving civilization. Their capital city of Byung-ho a marvel of architecture and culture. Mi-sun had died peacefully 5 years ago, surrounded by grandchildren who had never known fear. New Earth humans were different from Sol humans. They were more integrated into galactic society, more trusting, more outward-looking, but they maintained the same core stubbornness. They were human, and that meant something. The two human civilizations maintained close ties. Quantum communication allowed instant contact across the vast distances. They shared technology, culture, and news. When New Earth developed a new engine design, Sol humans helped perfect it. When Sol humans discovered a new medical treatment, New Earth hospitals implemented it. Humanity was no longer one species in one place. They were a diaspora spread across the galaxy, diverse but united by common history. Taimin attended the dedication of a new monument. The KCNS Defiant had been moved into orbit above Earth, preserved as a museum. People could visit it, walk its corridors, see where humanity's survivors slept for 20,000 years. At the dedication ceremony, a recording of Captain Byung-ho played. His face appeared on screens across the planet, his voice echoing through speakers. "We are the last," he said, "but we will not stop." The enemy thought they won. "They're wrong. See you on the other side." Then Sujin's voice recorded before she died. "We were silent for 20,000 years. The galaxy thought we were extinct, a cautionary tale. They were wrong. We survived. We adapted. We returned. Let this stand as testament. Humanity endures. We are the species that crosses the dark between stars, that rebuilds from ashes, that turns extinction into resurrection. We were silent. No longer." The ceremony ended with a signal broadcast from Earth's deep space network. It transmitted in every known language on every frequency, reaching out to the entire galaxy. "This is Earth. We're home, and we're here to stay." The signal would travel for years, crossing the galaxy at light speed. Every species would receive it. Every civilization would hear it. Humanity was back, and they wanted everyone to know. That evening, Taimin sat with Hyunwoo on a hill overlooking New Seoul. Below them, the city lights glowed warm against the darkness. Above them, stars filled the sky, Earth's sky clear and beautiful, showing the cosmos that humanity had refused to surrender to. "Do you think they're proud of us?" Hyunwoo asked quietly. "The ones who died? The billions who never got to see this?" Taimin thought about all the humans he had known. Sujin with her determination, Misun with her wisdom, the nameless soldiers who died buying time for evacuation ships, the children who never grew up, the dreams that never came true. "Yes," he said finally. "I think they're proud. You took their sacrifice and built something beautiful. You turned tragedy into hope. You survived. We survived," Hyunwoo corrected. "All of us, humans and aliens together. That's the real victory. Not that we came back, but that we came back better." A shooting star crossed the sky above them, but it wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was a ship arriving or departing, carrying people and cargo between worlds. The galaxy was connected now in ways it never had been before. Humans had changed the galaxy simply by refusing to die. They had shown that extinction wasn't inevitable, that determination and hope could overcome impossible odds. Other species looked at humanity and saw proof that survival was possible, that the universe didn't always win. In his office at the university, Ji-woo compiled the final volume of his comprehensive history of humanity. It ran to thousands of pages, documenting everything from Earth's birth to humanity's return. It would be required reading in schools across the galaxy. He wrote the final paragraph carefully, knowing these words would be read by billions. Humanity was silent for 20,000 years. They were presumed extinct, forgotten except as a lesson in failure. But they returned not as conquerors but as survivors. They reclaimed their dead world and brought it back to life. They taught the galaxy that resilience is not about never falling, but about always getting back up. They proved that silence is not defeat, that hiding is not surrender, that waiting is not weakness. They came back stronger, wiser, and more determined, and they will never be silent again. The book was published simultaneously on every human world and 1,000 alien ones. It became the most widely read history ever written. Years later, Bora stood in front of her own class. She had become a historian like Ji-woo, dedicating her life to preserving human stories. Her students were a mix of species, all eager to learn. "My great-grandmother saw Earth burn," she told them. "My grandmother was born on a ship in deep space. My mother was born here on New Earth. And I teach you now in a world that was dead but lives again. That's humanity. We endure, we adapt, we survive. And we never ever give up." Above Earth, the stars shone bright. Among them were human ships exploring, trading, living. The galaxy was vast, but humanity had claimed their place in it. They had been silent once. No longer. They were home. Silent for 20,000 years. Then humanity's ghost ship crossed the galaxy again. The human fleet settled into orbit around Earth. For days, nobody moved. They just stared at their dead homeworld, processing the reality of their loss. The planet that had given birth to humanity was now a lifeless rock floating in space. Taman watched from the research vessel as the humans began their surveys. Teams went down to the surface in protective suits, exploring the ruins of their ancient civilization. Cities were buried under dust. Oceans were dry basins. The atmosphere was too thin to breathe. But something unexpected happened on the third day of exploration. A human survey team was scanning the area that used to be called Korea when their instruments detected something underground. Deep beneath the surface, sealed in reinforced bunkers, were biodomes that had somehow survived. Yunwoo was on that team. He contacted Taimin immediately, his voice shaking with excitement. "You won't believe this. There are seed vaults down here. Genetic samples. Data archives. Parts of Earth survived." The discovery energized the entire fleet. More teams went down, searching for other bunkers. They found them scattered across the planet, hidden deep enough to survive the bombardment. Not all were intact, but enough had endured. Inside were seeds from thousands of plant species, frozen genetic material from animals, and data storage containing human knowledge and history. "Our ancestors knew this was coming," Misun said during a fleet-wide broadcast. "They prepared. They made sure that even if Earth died, the memory of what it was would survive." Sujin called a meeting of the fleet leadership. Youngsu was there, along with Misun and representatives from all 16 ships. They gathered in the Defiance conference room, and for the first time, Taemin and Jiwoo were invited to attend as observers. "We have a decision to make," Sujin said. "Earth can be restored. It will take decades, maybe centuries, but we have the technology now, thanks to the Luminari. We can rebuild the atmosphere, refill the oceans, replant the forests." Youngsu leaned forward. "But is that what we want? This world is a graveyard. 10 billion people died here. Maybe we should let it rest in peace." "My children deserve a world that's alive," said a woman named Bo Young. She was a mother of 3, all born on colony ships. Not a memorial, a home. The debate went on for hours. Some humans wanted to stay and rebuild Earth. Others wanted to take the Luminaries' offer of a new world, far from Reshtar space, where they could start fresh without the weight of history. Finally, Misun proposed a compromise. "We split up," she said. "Those who want to stay and rebuild Earth can stay. Those who want a fresh start can go to the new world. Humanity doesn't have to be in one place anymore. We can be in 2. The idea was radical. Humanity had always been one species on one world. But they weren't that anymore. They were survivors, scattered and broken. Maybe being in 2 places would make them stronger. The vote was close, but it passed. The fleet would divide. Sujin chose to stay with Earth. About half the fleet agreed with her, including Hyunwoo. The Defiant and 7 other ships would remain in Seoul, beginning the long work of restoration. Youngsu and Misun would lead the other half to the new world, which they decided to call New Earth. 8 ships would make the journey to Luminari space, carrying 1 million humans to a fresh start. Before the split, the Galactic Council formalized humanity's return. Hana drafted the agreement herself with input from human leaders. Humanity was recognized as an independent sovereign species. The Sol system belonged to them completely. The Reshtar Empire formally apologized for the genocide and pledged reparations. Technology, resources, and a promise of peace. Not everyone was happy. Some humans still wanted revenge. Some Reshitar thought humanity was too dangerous to let survive. But the majority on both sides chose peace over war. Taimin was offered a position as Earth's first alien liaison. He would stay in Seoul, helping humanity rebuild and serving as a bridge between humans and other species. "It was the opportunity of a lifetime, are you sure?" Jiwoo asked him. "This will be your whole life. Decades on a dead world, helping them bring it back to life." "I'm sure," Taemin said. "This is the most important thing I'll ever do." The day came for the fleet to separate. It was emotional. Humans saying goodbye to other humans, knowing they might never see each other again. The distance between Seoul and New Earth was vast. Communication would be possible, but visits would be rare. Hyunwoo hugged his sister Junhee, who had chosen to go to New Earth. They held each other and cried. "Build something beautiful," he told her. "Make them remember that humans are more than warriors." "You too," she said. "Bring Earth back to life. Make it worth the wait." The ships that were leaving fired their engines, beginning the long journey to luminary space. Those that remained turned their attention to Earth. The work began immediately. Atmospheric processors were lowered to the surface, massive machines that would slowly rebuild the air. The process would take 50 years, but it was possible. Earth would breathe again. Water was the next challenge. The oceans were gone, evaporated into space during the bombardment, but comets carried water and the outer solar system had ice. Human engineers designed systems to capture asteroids and guide them to Earth, melting them to refill the seas. Taemin worked alongside Hyun-woo and the other engineers. He learned human jokes, ate human food, and slowly began to understand their culture. They were tough and determined, but also surprisingly gentle. They cried easily, laughed often, and never gave up. One day, Hyun-woo took Taemin down to the surface to plant the first tree. It was a small pine seedling, grown from seeds found in a Korean bunker. They planted it in soil that had been dead for 20,000 years, now enriched and prepared. "This seems silly," Hyun-woo said, watering the tiny tree. "One tree on a whole dead planet. Every forest starts with one tree," Taemin replied. Around them, construction crews were building the first permanent settlement. They called it New Seoul, after an ancient city that had stood on this spot. It would be small at first, just a few thousand people. But it would grow. Years passed. The work was slow and hard, but humanity never stopped. The atmosphere grew thicker. Water began to pool in the lowest places, forming the first new lakes. The pine tree grew and thousands more were planted around it. Taemin received regular updates from New Earth. The colony was thriving. They had built a beautiful city and named it Byung-ho, after the captain who had saved them all. The planet was paradise, and humans were integrating into galactic society. The two human civilizations stayed in close contact. They were different now, shaped by their different choices. Sol humans were more cautious, more focused on their own world. New Earth humans were more outward-looking, more trusting of aliens. But both were undeniably human, stubborn, creative, and absolutely refusing to give up. Soo-jin died in her sleep 10 years after the return. She was buried on Earth in the soil she had helped restore. Thousands attended her funeral, human and alien alike. She had lived to see Earth's sky turn blue again, to see the first rains fall. Her last words recorded in her journal were simple. "We came home. We survived. That's enough." Taemin stood at her grave with Hyun-woo and wept. This woman had been through hell and chosen peace. She had every reason to hate, but she built instead of destroyed. "She was the best of us," Hyun-woo said quietly. "She was the best of anyone," Taemin replied. Silent for 20,000 years, then humanity's ghost ship crossed the galaxy. Again, the waiting was the hardest part. For 2 weeks, the galaxy watched as the human fleet continued its slow approach toward Reshitar space. Inside those massive ships, 2 million humans were waking up, learning that everything they knew was gone. Taemin monitored the communications every day. At first, the humans didn't talk to anyone. They were dealing with their own grief, their own shock. But slowly, carefully, they started to respond to messages. Commander Soo-jin became the voice of the fleet. She held daily briefings, her image broadcast to stations across the galaxy. She looked exhausted, like she had aged years in just days. Her uniform was neat but worn, a relic from a dead civilization. "We are not monsters," she said in one broadcast, her voice steady. "We are people who lost everything. We went to sleep expecting to die. We set our alarms for 20,000 years because we wanted to give the galaxy time to forget us. Time for our enemies to grow weak and comfortable." She paused, looking directly at the camera. "But we're not here for revenge. Not yet. We're here for answers. We're here to decide if this galaxy has a place for humanity, or if we need to find our own way." Hana requested a private meeting with Soo-jin. The request was denied at first, but eventually Soo-jin agreed. They met via secure video link, just the two of them. Taemin wasn't supposed to listen in, but he managed to access the feed. He watched as the two women sized each other up, predator and prey, except neither knew which was which. "I'm sorry," Hana said simply. "My species committed genocide. There's no excuse for that. I spent my career studying your people, and I never knew we destroyed you." Soo-jin studied her coldly. "Do you expect me to forgive you?" "No," Hana said. "I expect you to hate me. But I want you to know that not all Reshtar are like our ancestors. We've changed. We've grown. Have you? Sujin challenged. Or did you just forget the blood on your hands? They talked for 3 hours. Taemin watched, fascinated as two enemies tried to find common ground. By the end, they weren't friends. But they weren't shooting at each other either. Inside the human fleet, debates raged. Taemin learned about them from Sejong, who had started sharing information with the research station. The AI seemed to respect Taemin's genuine curiosity about humanity. Captain Youngsu commands the KCNS Horizon, Sejong explained. He advocates for military action. He believes the Reshtar should pay for what their ancestors did. And the others? Taemin asked. Mi-sun leads the civilian council. She was a teacher on Earth. She lost her husband and 2 children in the attack, but she argues for peace. She says revenge won't bring back the dead. The humans held votes, debates, and councils. Taemin was amazed by their process. They argued fiercely, sometimes shouting at each other, but they listened too. They considered every voice. A human engineer named Hyunwoo started talking with Taemin directly. They were about the same age, though Hyunwoo had been born on a colony ship fleeing Earth. He had never seen his homeworld alive. My grandmother died in the first wave, Hyunwoo told him. She was a doctor in Seoul. That was a city on Earth. She was trying to help people when the bombs fell. Taemin didn't know what to say. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry, Hyunwoo said, but not unkindly. But sorry doesn't fix anything. We need to figure out what comes next. The Galactic Council met again. This time they invited Sujin to speak. It was unprecedented, having a representative from an extinct species address them, but these were unprecedented times. Sujin stood in the center of the chamber, projected via hologram. She wore her uniform, and behind her stood representatives of the human fleet. Youngsu was there, stern and military. Mi-sun was there, sad but dignified. A dozen others represented different parts of humanity. We are the last humans, Sujin began. 2 million out of 10 billion. We are what survived when you tried to wipe us out. The Reshtar representatives shifted uncomfortably. The current Empress Vokresh watched with unreadable eyes. We have weapons, Sujin continued. Old weapons, but effective ones. We have enough nuclear missiles to destroy every major world in this sector. We could start a war that would kill billions. Silence filled the chamber. Everyone knew she was telling the truth, but we won't, Sujin said. Because that would make us like you. Like the Reshtar who attacked us. We would become the monsters. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. We want to go home, she said simply. We want to go back to Earth, or what's left of it. We want to bury our dead and rebuild our world. We don't want your charity. We don't want your pity. We just want what's ours. Dongwoo stood up. The Sol system has been dead space for 20,000 years. Nobody uses it. Nobody wants it. Why not give it back to humanity? The idea rippled through the chamber. It was so simple. So obvious. The cost to the galactic community was nothing. But to humanity it was everything. Empress Vokresh conferred quietly with her advisors. Then she stood. The Reshtar Empire agrees. The Sol system will be returned to human control. Additionally, we will provide resources to help with rebuilding. Technology, raw materials, whatever you need. Why? Sujin asked suspiciously. Why help us? Vokresh met her gaze. Because my ancestors were wrong. They judged you without knowing you. They feared what you might become instead of welcoming what you were. We cannot undo the past, but we can try to make the future better. The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed. Humanity could go home. That night, Taemin found Hyunwoo on the video link. The human was crying. We get to go home, Hyunwoo said. I never thought I'd see Earth, even a dead Earth, but now we can go home. The human fleet changed course. Instead of heading toward Reshitar space, they turned toward the outer rim. Toward the small yellow star that humans called Sol. Toward the dead world that had given birth to their species. The Galactic Council assigned an escort. Ships from a dozen species volunteered to accompany humanity home. It was part honor guard, part protection, and part curiosity. Everyone wanted to see what humans would do with their second chance. Taemin and Jiwoo were on one of the escort ships. They had been with this story from the beginning, and they wanted to see how it ended. The journey took weeks. During that time, something unexpected happened. The humans started to interact with the other species, carefully at first, then more openly. Hyunwoo gave Taemin a tour of the Defiant via video. He showed him the memorial wall where every human who died was listed. 10 billion names. It would take days to read them all. We won't forget them, Hyunwoo said. But we can't spend forever mourning. We have to live. That's what they would want. Jiwoo worked with human historians compiling a true record of what happened. They gathered evidence, testimonies, and data. When they were done, they had created a document that both species could accept. The truth with nothing hidden. When the fleet finally reached Seoul, every ship fell silent. Even from space, the destruction was visible. Earth was a dark sphere. Its oceans dried up, its atmosphere gone. The moon was fractured. Mars was cratered beyond recognition. Soo-jin stood on the Defiance observation deck with Hana beside her. The Reshtar historian had insisted on coming to see what her ancestors had done. "I'm sorry," Hana whispered again, tears streaming down her face. Soo-jin didn't answer. She just stared at the dead world that had been her home. After a long moment, she put her hand on the window as if trying to touch Earth one last time. "We'll fix it," she finally said. "Somehow we'll bring it back to life." Silent for 20,000 years, then humanity's ghost ship crossed the galaxy. Again, Jiwoo hadn't slept in 3 days. His team worked around the clock in the research station, trying to decrypt the Defiance computer files. The ancient human data was encrypted with systems nobody had seen before. But slowly, piece by piece, they were breaking through. What they found changed everything. Taemin brought the first clear file to Jiwoo's office at dawn. His hands trembled as he held the datapad. "You need to see this," he said. "Right now." The file showed Earth as it had been 20,000 years ago. A beautiful blue planet full of life. Cities covered the continents. Satellites orbited overhead. Humans had colonies on their moon and on the red planet they called Mars. They were just beginning to explore beyond their own solar system. Then the attack came. The records showed it in terrible detail. Unknown ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were Reshtar ships, but from an ancient time, before the modern empire existed. The humans sent messages trying to communicate. They offered peace and friendship. The Reshtar answered with weapons. Kinetic missiles traveling at incredible speeds smashed into human colonies. On Earth, entire cities vanished in fireballs. The atmosphere caught fire. Oceans boiled. Billions of humans died in the first hour, but humanity fought back. Jiwoo watched the battle records with growing horror and awe. Human ships were primitive compared to Reshtar technology, but humans fought with a fury that shocked their attackers. When their weapons failed, human pilots rammed their ships into Reshtar vessels. When their shields fell, human soldiers boarded enemy ships with nothing but weapons and rage. One recording showed a human pilot named Kang Dae flying his damaged fighter straight into a Reshtar cruiser's engine core. His last transmission was simply for Earth. The explosion took out the entire enemy ship. "They made them pay," Taemin whispered, watching the files. "They were losing, but they made it cost everything." Jiwoo found the final battle report. A small group of human ships had held off the Reshtar fleet for 6 hours, buying time. Time for 16 colony ships to escape with everyone they could save. 2 million people, mostly families and children. The defense fleet stayed behind to die, giving the colony ships a chance to run. The last ship to fall was commanded by someone named Soo-ah. Her final message was, "Run fast, run far. Come back strong." Taemin discovered something else in the files. "These aren't warships," he said, pulling up ship specifications. "The Defiant and the others are colony ships. They're carrying people in cryosleep. Families, scientists, engineers, children." Jiwoo understood immediately. They weren't running away to hide. They were running away to survive, to grow, to come back. They presented their findings to the Galactic Council. The chamber was packed. Every species sent representatives. The evidence was displayed on massive screens for everyone to see. Hana stood in the center of the chamber, her body language radiating shock. She had spent her life studying humans, believing they had destroyed themselves. Now she learned her own species had committed genocide. "This is a lie," shouted a Reshtar military commander. "Our ancestors would never—" "Your ancestors did," Hana interrupted coldly. She pulled up her own research. She had been digging through old Reshtar archives, files sealed away for thousands of years. "I found the records. They called it Operation Final Strike. The ancient Reshtar government decided humans were too aggressive, too expansionist. They thought humans would become a threat. So they struck first. The commander fell silent. Other Reshtar representatives looked uncomfortable. They buried the truth, Hana continued. They made up the story about humans destroying themselves. They were afraid of the precedent, afraid other species would know that a primitive species nearly beat them. The Luminary representative, a crystal being whose name translated as bright thoughts, spoke in chiming tones. If this is true, if humans were victims of genocide, what does that make us? We've been using their tragedy as a lesson for centuries. We told children that humans failed. We were wrong. While politicians argued, Taman monitored the Defiant. The ship's systems were waking up. Power levels increased daily. The AI was activating more functions, preparing for something. It's starting the revival process, Taman reported to Dongwu. The humans are waking up. Dongwu contacted the Defiant directly, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Commander Dongwu of the Velkari Research Station. We mean you no harm. We know what happened to Earth, we want to help. For days there was no response. The Defiant continued moving toward Reshitar space, its sister ships converging from different directions. Galactic military forces mobilized, but nobody wanted to fire first. These humans were victims, but they were also dangerous. Then the Defiant answered. The voice that came through the speakers was artificial but somehow alive. This is Sejong, artificial intelligence of the KCNS Defiant. I am protecting 200,000 humans in cryosleep. My orders are to ensure their survival at any cost. Taman felt his heart race. He was talking to a human AI, something nobody had done in 20,000 years. Sejong, we don't want to fight, Taman said carefully. We know what happened to your people. We know they were attacked. Then you know why we are here, Sejong replied. The Reshitar destroyed our civilization, killed our world. We warned you we would come back. The Reshitar who attacked you are dead, Jiwoo interjected. 20,000 years have passed. The current Reshtar government didn't know about the attack. They thought humans destroyed themselves. There was a long pause. Scanning historical records, Sejong said. Analyzing galactic political structures. This requires verification. I am waking the command crew for consultation. In the Defiant's medical bay, cryopods began to activate. Frozen humans started to thaw for the first time in 20 millennia. The first to wake was Commander Sujin, second in command of the ship. Captain Byung-ho had died of his wounds before entering cryo, making her the ranking officer. Sujin opened her eyes to a universe 20,000 years older than the one she remembered. Sejong updated her quickly, showing her everything that had happened. She saw her dead world, learned that her entire civilization was gone, discovered that the descendants of her enemy now ruled the galaxy. She cried for an hour, then she got angry. Jiwoo was granted permission to speak with her via video link. He saw a tired woman in an old military uniform, her eyes red from tears but her jaw set with determination. You're telling me the Reshitar forgot they murdered us? Sujin said, her voice hard. That's convenient. They didn't forget, Jiwoo said carefully. Their government hid the truth. But a Reshtar historian uncovered it. She's trying to make this right. Make it right? Sujin laughed bitterly. 10 billion people died. Earth is gone. How do you make that right? I don't know, Jiwoo admitted. But war won't bring them back. Your people survived for 20,000 years. You can survive this too. Sujin was quiet for a long time. I need to wake more crew. We need to vote on what happens next. Give us 2 weeks. Across the human fleet, cryopods opened. 2 million humans woke to find themselves the last survivors of their species, surrounded by a galaxy that had forgotten them. Some cried, some raged, but all of them began to plan. On the research station, Taemin watched the human ships gathering. He saw their weapon systems coming online, their shields activating. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would choose, peace or vengeance. Silent for 20,000 years, then humanity's ghost ship crossed the galaxy again. The alarm screamed through the Velkari research station at 3 a.m. Taemin jerked awake in his small quarters, his heart pounding. He worked as a sensor technician, and alarms like this meant something big was happening in deep space. He rushed to the control room, still pulling on his uniform jacket. His supervisor, Jiwoo, was already there, staring at the main display screen with wide eyes. Jiwoo was old for their species, with gray scales and careful movements that spoke of decades spent studying dead civilizations. What is it? Taemin asked. sliding into his station. Jiwoo pointed at the screen without looking away. "Look at Sector 7. Tell me what you see." Taemin pulled up the sensor data. His breath caught in his throat. A massive object had appeared from nowhere, right at the edge of their scanning range. It was huge, maybe 5 kilometers long, and it was moving. Not drifting like a rock or a dead satellite. Moving with purpose. "That's impossible," Taemin whispered. "There's nothing out there. That sector is empty space between the stars. Run the identification scan," Jiwoo said quietly. Taemin's hands moved across his console. The computer worked for several long seconds, searching its vast database of known ships and stations. When the result appeared, Taemin felt cold all over. "It says it's human," he said. "But that can't be right. Humans are extinct." Jiwoo moved closer, reading over his shoulder. "Look at the transponder code. See those symbols? That's human writing. Korean script, if I remember my xenoarchaeology courses correctly." Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans. They were a cautionary tale, a sad story told to young students. Humans had lived on a planet called Earth, in a system called Sol. They had built cities and ships and dreams of reaching the stars, but they destroyed themselves in nuclear fire before they could spread beyond their home system. Their ruins had been found centuries ago, empty monuments to a species that killed itself. Except now a human ship was crossing the galaxy. Within hours, every major government in the galaxy knew about the discovery. The Reshtar Empire, with their insect-like bodies and military precision, mobilized their fleets. The luminary collective, beings of living crystal who valued knowledge above all, sent their best scientists. Dozens of smaller species watched and waited nervously. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Taemin watched the broadcast in the station's common room with his fellow workers. The council chamber was chaos. Representatives shouted over each other in a dozen different languages. A Reshtar diplomat named Hana finally brought order. She was unusual for her species, more interested in history and culture than conquest. She had spent years studying human ruins, fascinated by the extinct species. "We must investigate," Hana said, her translator making her clicking speech understandable to all. "This ship could tell us what really happened to humanity. This is the discovery of the century." Not everyone agreed. Some argued the ship should be destroyed from a distance. Humans had been violent and unpredictable. Their weapons technology, though ancient, had been terrifyingly effective. Others wanted to leave it alone, let it pass through their space and disappear again. In the end, curiosity won. A boarding party would be sent to investigate the ship. Taemin volunteered immediately. Jiwoo tried to talk him out of it. "You're young," the old scholar said. "You don't understand how dangerous this could be." But Taemin was determined. He had grown up on stories of Earth, of humans who painted pictures and wrote music and dreamed of the stars. He wanted to see their ship with his own eyes. The expedition was led by Dongwu, a famous explorer who had discovered 3 new species and mapped 15 uncharted systems. He was brave and practical, the kind of person who stayed calm when everything went wrong. The team included Taemin, Jiwoo, and representatives from 5 other species. They approached the human ship in a small research vessel, their sensors scanning constantly. Up close, the ship was even more impressive. Its hull was dark metal, scarred and pitted from thousands of years in space. Cosmic radiation had worn away paint and symbols, but the basic structure was solid. The ship had been built to last. "It's called the Defiant," Jiwoo said, reading the faded letters on the hull. "Korean Colonial Navy ship Defiant. It's a military vessel. They found an airlock that still worked. The ship had minimal power, just enough to keep basic systems running." The team suited up and entered carefully. Inside was like stepping into a tomb. The corridors were dark and cold, preserved perfectly in the vacuum of space. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting strange shadows on the walls. The walls were covered in murals. Taemin stopped to stare at them. They showed a beautiful blue and green planet, with white clouds swirling above great oceans. Cities of glass and steel rose from the land. People with 2 arms and 2 legs walked through parks filled with strange plants. "This is Earth," Jiwoo said softly. "This is what they lost. They moved deeper into the ship. In the command center, they found bodies. Human crew members were still at their stations, frozen in the cold void of space. They looked peaceful, like they had simply fallen asleep at their posts. Their uniforms were military style, with symbols and writing that none of the team could fully read. Taemin felt a deep sadness looking at them. These people had died 20,000 years ago, but they looked so real. He could see their faces, their hands resting on dead consoles. They had been alive once with hopes and fears and people they loved. Dongwu examined the main computer. It's in some kind of sleep mode. Basic systems only, but the core AI might still be functional. Can you access it? Hana asked. She had joined the mission personally, too curious to stay behind. Taemin worked at a side console, his training kicking in. He knew computers and systems. The human technology was old, but the basic principles were the same. He found a data port and connected his translation device. The screen flickered to life. Text scrolled across it in human languages, then slowly translated. A log entry appeared, dated 20,000 years ago. A human face appeared on the screen. A man with tired eyes and a military uniform. The recording was damaged, the image flickering, but his voice was clear. This is Captain Byung-ho of the KCNS Defiant. Final log entry. Earth is gone. Mars is gone. Our entire civilization was destroyed in a matter of hours. We are what's left. 16 ships. 2 million souls. We're running now, but we won't run forever. The captain looked directly at the camera, his jaw set with determination. The enemy thought they won. They thought they killed us all. They're wrong. We're going to sleep now. Hide in the dark between stars. But we set the alarm clocks. In 20,000 years, we wake up. And then we come back. See you on the other side? The recording ended. The team stood in silence in the dead command center. They were attacked, Hana whispered. Humans didn't destroy themselves. Someone destroyed them. Taemin pulled up more data, his hands shaking. There are more ships. 15 more, all on the same course. They're all heading toward the galactic core. Dongwu checked the coordinates and his face went pale. Those coordinates point directly to the Reshtar homeworld. The team looked at each other in growing horror. Somewhere out in space, 15 more human ships were waking up, and they were coming back for revenge.